verbally, that would be great. Yeah?
Yes, for sure. I'll let you know if anyone raises their hands or says something in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right. So I guess, again, good morning. My name is Dr. Lin Wang. I am your teacher for today. And Ava, you want to do a real quick introduction?
Sure. Hi, my name's Ava. I'm an assistant teacher today, and I'll probably be giving my PowerPoint on Wednesday. So look forward to that.
Well, Wednesday for us, but I think Thursday morning for them because of the time difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thursday.
Okay.
Thursday.
Yeah. So again, this particular week, it's about college and career in the United States. And in more particular, we're going to talk about college and career in California. Okay, so before we get started, do we have any other questions? I am going to pause for a minute.
I don't think there's any questions in the chat, and no one's raising their hand. So.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay. And I'm just trying to browse to see if there anyone's camera that's on, just so we could have a little bit of interaction. So I just want to let you know, our session is only going to be as powerful, as fun if you participate. Okay, so if you participate, the more you participate, the more fun you're going to have, the more you're going to learn, right? So if you could turn on your camera or speak up, it would be really helpful. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started then. So in this slide, I want to talk to you a little bit about who I am before we jump into the rest of the lesson, okay? So in this slide, I want to go ahead and introduce myself again formally. So my name is Lin Wang. 我的中文名字是王继玲. I was born and raised in Taipei. I actually went to middle school all the way, I went to school all the way to middle school in Taiwan. So I went to school in Yonghe, Taipei. I immigrated to California when I was 13. So that would be 7th grade in the United States. So I personally am bilingual, so I am fluent in Chinese and of course in English. As a student myself, I went to Cerritos College. That is the college where I currently work at and work for. And after Cerritos College, I transferred to UC Berkeley. So I went to UC Berkeley, got a bachelor's degree, got an undergraduate degree in social welfare with the minor in education. So I did about 4 years total at Cerritos and UC Berkeley. After that, I pursued my master's degree, and that is from Cal State Long Beach. Eventually and finally, I earned my doctorate. So that's why I'm a doctor, not because I am a medical doctor, but I do have an educational doctorate from Cal State Fullerton, right? So again, I'm very excited to be here with you because I think it's pretty cool to be able to connect with my roots, being Taiwanese myself. So I hope to teach you a little bit more about college and career in the United States if you ever want to consider going to school in California. Any questions, comments?
No, it
Questions?
seems to be good.
Okay. All right. So Ava, go ahead. Your turn.
So I was born in the United States in California, but my parents are originally from Iran. So my first language was actually Farsi and not English. And after high school, I decided to go to community college and I got my AS in chemistry. And then from there, I transferred to a 4-year at UC San Diego, and I'm going into my last year at UC San Diego as a global health major with a minor in biology. And looking towards the future, I'm looking into becoming a doctor. So if you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, so I think it's so important to also talk about the term doctor, right? Like the term doctor has so many different meanings in English, right? I know, I guess most of the common usage of the word doctor or medical doctor is what Ava is pursuing in medicine. But, you know, there's so many different types of doctor in the United States, right? But so in Chinese, in Mandarin, it would be called 博士, not 医生, right? So there are like different meanings. 博士 means like doctorate. 医生 means like a doctor, physical physician, right? So I just want to clarify there are some differences in the English language where the term doctorate is used interchangeably. But, you know, we're not pursuing the same doctorate here. Any questions or comments before I move on? Okay.
Questions.
Got it. All right. So we have so many people in here. So the more interaction we can have, the better, right? Or else it's going to be super boring. I am going to be talking at you, which is not very exciting, right? So if you could speak up, raise your hand, type it in a chat, it would be really helpful for Ava and I, right? Because then, or else you would just be hearing my voice all the time. Ava, you have a question in the chat. What is your first language?
My first language was Farsi.
So if you can, type it in the chat so they can Google it.
Yes, I'll let them.
Cool. Whose question is that? Sorry, so I see a question in there. I want to make sure whose question is it for. I see in the chat. I see that there is a question in the chat, but I'm not sure whose question that was to.
I'm not sure either. Do you want us to just both answer?
Okay. Chao Yan Huang.
Well,
your question is your question for Ava or is it for me? Ava.
Oh, okay. So it was early elementary school for me where I learned. So I was in, we have a class called ESL where they start to teach you English. And I think I got out of ESL in 3rd grade, if I believe correctly. So I wasn't bad, but I wasn't at full capacity until like later in elementary school.
Ava, are you the I guess the firstborn in your family, in your generation?
Yeah, I'm first gen.
Got
I'm
it.
first generation student.
So you're the oldest from your siblings.
Yes.
So that's probably why, right? Like you didn't have a lot of people to communicate with in English.
Yeah, it's funny. I basically learned English. Obviously, I had those classes at school, but I learned a lot from TV.
Yes.
Like TV was my friend. I learned a lot from that. So if you're thinking about like getting more into English, I would recommend English TV shows as a way to progress.
So it's funny that you mentioned that actually, Ava. That's how I learned my English too when I was in the seventh grade. So I learned English from watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Because very similarly, right? Like I didn't know any English when I first came in the US in the seventh grade. And then after school, there's not much, to do, right? Like my mom was working. So I learned English also from watching TV. So it's funny that you mentioned that. Any other questions and comments?
Oh, there's a question for you. Someone's asking what your present career is and if you can go into details. And also, why did you move to California at 13?
Oh, okay. Good question. So my job at Cerritos College is I am a counselor. So I'll spell it out for you. And I am a counselor and a professor at Cerritos College. So my job is to help students, brand new college students who want to attend college, to tell them and give them advice on what classes to take so they can be like Ava one day, be able to transfer into a 4-year school. So my job is to work with students. I meet with them one-on-one. I teach them a class. I go over a lot of career exploration, college exploration with them. So that's what I do at Cerritos College. So I am a counselor and a professor. So if you want to Google it, you can copy and paste my chat and you can Google those two words to translate it. And why did I move to California at 13? So it was really just immigration, but that was hugely influenced by my brother. So you guys probably know in Taiwan, you have to serve in the military once you turn certain age, right? So you have to join the military. 你要当兵, right? So my brother moved to California to, I don't want to say avoid it, but essentially we moved out. We moved out from Taiwan at that time so we can study in the US. So we were immigrants. I have one uncle who came to the US when he was in college. So he was able to get my mom to the US, and then my mom applied for my brother and I. So that's why I immigrated to the US when I was 13. And it was mostly because of education. Any other questions? Thank you for those questions. Ava, you have a question. Tell us a little bit more about global health. Is it very difficult to study?
So I wouldn't say global health is anything compared to like maybe studying chemistry or studying like something really high up there, or like engineering. Like I've seen their studies, it's very hard. I think global health is more taxing on the sense that you need to understand types of policy, how health affects different areas of the world. Like COVID-19, for example, is something we focus on a lot in global health. So if you find these things interesting, I wouldn't say it's that difficult. Everything's more difficult if you don't find it interesting. I would say like my boringest classes are the ones I'm not interested in.
Any other questions? So, Ava, you would say your major has a lot of science, right?
Yes, definitely. Especially if you want to go into medicine, you have to take your requirements, and those are science every day.
A lot of time spent on chemistry, biology. You probably do, obviously, organic chemistry,
Yes, I did that for a year.
calculus, and etc. Right?
Yes.
So, and probably physics too, at least like 2 semesters worth.
Yes.
All right, so I am just looking at the chat to see if there's any further questions. Any other questions at all before I move on to our slides for today? All right, so I have a question in the chat. Will you have special classes to help you adopt in the US or help you essentially to learn English for the better? So to answer your question, yes. So Ava mentioned there is something called ESL, which stands for Ava, would it be easy? Can you just do me a favor? Type it in the chat. Type in ESL, second link, English as second language learners, I believe. And then also type in ELD for me, English Learning Development. I'm not sure, but the acronyms are a little bit different. So same thing. If you could, Ava, just do me a favor, maybe drop some of the Google links in there so they understand what that means. That would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll go find it right now.
Great. But yeah, so yes, there are classes that you can take to help you learn English and transition. So, at age of 13 in middle school, 国中, yeah, I came to the US when I was in 国中. So I didn't learn much English either, right? Like I learned whatever classroom English they teach me or they taught me. So I had to learn English at the age of 13, and it just takes time. I probably would say it took me probably a good 3 years to be fluent in English. I did not understand everything, obviously, immediately, but it took some time. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so let me move on to my next slide.